Welcome to Tanks Talks in its longest form yet. So this is going to be the first podcast version, the first YouTube long form version. I've gone into this first episode with no kind of set tone, no specific idea on what I'm actually going to come and talk about. So if you do follow me on YouTube, you would have seen last week I've done a really brief introduction into what Tanks Talks actually is. But I didn't kind of delve into it deeply. So chances are, if you're here, you've not stumbled across this by chance. You've come across it because I put a link on one of my other socials, or you already follow me. So thanks, I love you. I can't do that weird love thing that these teenagers do at the moment. But, you know, I actually started Tanks Talks back on World Mental Health Day, and I think it was 2017 or 2018. And I randomly picked up my phone before I was going into a PT session, and I sat my phone on my dash of my car and I just videoed, and I started talking about mental health and how it's okay to not be okay, and you know how I had dealt with mental health issues throughout my life, and I just posted it on my Instagram stories. And I remember I'd never really spoken to camera before. I'd never really kind of used my voice or spoke at any depth, especially on social media. I had hardly any followers. I think I had way less than 2,000 at the time. And for me it was just really it was a bit scary, but then when I posted it I was like, shit, that was really cathartic. Everything that was bumbling around in here, I just got out. I am that person that I actually do kind of really struggle to speak on an emotional level. I'm very, very good with words. I'm very, very good at articulating myself and getting my point across. But when it comes to those deep emotions, I really struggle to voice it, especially to another human. So that first initial method of just talking to my phone emptied my brain. And for somebody that had a really small following, I got so much positive feedback. I had so many people reach out to me oh my God, thank you for posting that. And it was reshares and people engaged. And from that point forward, I was like, do you know what? Actually, that made me feel safe. It created a safe space on my social media. It was never about pleasing other people or getting followers or anything like that. It was just almost like a brain dump. And so from that point forward, Tanks Talks became a really regular thing for me. The things that had aggravated me throughout the day, I'd actually just sit and talk about on camera. I work in an industry where there's so much bullshit. I'm constantly seeing these trends, these fads, these things you have to try, how you can lose weight. For those that don't know, I'm a fitness coach. I've been a personal trainer since 2016. So it was a really satisfying and almost quite clean way for me to just get rid of all the things sort of bumbling around in my head. But also it created some feedback from other people, and that I really, really valued. And you know, Tanks Talks was never a massive thing, but it was big enough that it empowered a lot of the people that saw it, whether you were male or female. I actually ended up working on one of my local radio shows briefly for an episode about Tanks Talks, which was just ace. Some of my Tanks Talks were used at local colleges to help young girls with body image issues and stuff that they're seeing online. And it was just really, really cool. And then kind of lockdown 2020, I blew up overnight on TikTok. And when I say I blew up overnight, I quite literally blew up overnight. So I kind of joined TikTok in the era when we were all bored, we were all at home, none of us had anything to do, and the whole TikTok lesbian thing was pretty cool. I think I was a little bit of fresh meat. I just come out, and my following just absolutely boomed. to the point where I think I had my first 100k followers in like a week. And as it kind of escalated, the dynamics of social media were changing around me. I'd found this new platform. It was really, really cool. I was kind of finding myself. And then in the process of that, Tanks Talks kind of just faded. It got lost. I got lost, definitely. And I've been on quite a big like social media journey. A lot of people have followed my journey since day dot. They've watched me come out on social media. They've watched me meet the love of my life. They've watched me get married. They've watched, you know, now watching moments of me and my family and the moments that I want to share with my children. They watched me open a business. They watched me close a business. They've watched me lose myself. And one of the biggest things that I actually did kind of lose during that process was Tanks Talks, because it's something that meant so much to me. Social media has quite literally changed my life. And I know that sometimes it might come across like I speak about it quite negatively, but I don't view it as negative. But if you follow me, you'll know that I'm very, very real. I'm very, very fucking upfront. I'm never ever gonna muck around. And I think that the realities of social media sometimes need to be told, because it's sold as this glamorous story and it's really, really not that. But that's a whole nother episode. Like, for now, I lost base for a very long time with, you know, actually showing who I am on social media, because I got sucked into this image initially of what I thought I had to be and who I thought I had to be, but then also this image of a business that I had to carry, and then the healing process after that. And now I've come through the other side of that, and I'm not quite so heavy on TikTok anymore. I've really scaled back, because if you're a user of that app, you know how toxic it actually can be. And I focus really heavily on Instagram, which is where Tanks Talks was born, back in the days of Instagram TV. When that first came out, it doesn't really exist anymore. It's now Reels. But it meant that we could do slightly longer videos, and I'd just sit very much like this and just chat. I'd chat the shit. I'd, you know, say that a personal trainer had pissed me off, or this new fad diet was really annoying me, or this is just generally how I felt that day, you know, or what I kind of hoped my daughter would grow up and start seeing, rather than the shit that's on social media now. And I just kind of feel like that was a very natural, raw, real person. And that's somebody that I kind of tuck away through fear of offending people or upsetting people or being cancelled. You know, I am at the mark now where across the board on all my socials, there's 900 odd thousand, nearly 1 million followers. And that is incredible. Like, that's an absolute honour. But at the same time, it's so easy to say the wrong thing and be publicly called out for it. So that pressure I was definitely feeling, and I think in the midst of that, I lost a lot of the authenticity that I once had. And that's definitely been noticed, not only by myself, but people that actually know me in real life, my followers, and so on and so forth. But I wanted to kind of take it and strip it right back and bring a lot of my content back to that core moment, which was actually me doing something for myself on camera, on screen, that if in the process it helped other people, if other people wanted to come in and listen to it, or wanted to contribute towards it, or even wanted to open up a conversation about it, then that was great. And that realistically is really what Tanks Talks is about. That's why I'm here. So it's time to unfold that box. So the reality of what Tanks Talks is actually about is, it's a safe space. It's a safe space very much that exists for me, but also now exists for the 900 odd thousand people that I have around me, and that actually share very similar stories to me, very similar backgrounds, similar traumas, similar values, and don't feel like they have anywhere safe to go. So essentially, if you don't like women that are blunt, that are crude, if you are easily offended, if you are going to be judgmental based on the fact that I'm tattooed or I'm gay or anything like that, I'm probably not the fucking person for you, and that's the reality of it. However, I'm not afraid to sit here and talk about those touchy subjects. I'm not afraid to sit here and talk about the LGBTQ plus community. I can't even say my own community properly. I'm not afraid to talk about autism. I have one diagnosed autistic child, I've got another on the pathway, and I'm self-diagnosed myself. And I actually think self-diagnosis is going to be a really big series within Tanks Talks, because it's something I get questioned on so much, and I actually feel like it's really important to talk about it, especially in the current surge of TikTok, social media, self-diagnoses. I'm not afraid to cover subjects that actually a lot of influencers might just sly away from. And yes, I have just used the term influencer because for the first time in 3 years, I'm actually happily proud enough to sit here and say I'm an influencer. I know I am at this point. I know that it's now reached that peak. And my relationship with being an influencer was once upon a time incredibly negative, and that's almost a label that I shunned. I was like, I don't want that near me. I don't want that association. But I think it's actually really important as somebody with some form of influence to actually tackle those bigger subjects and talk about things that maybe others aren't quite so comfortable to talk about. You know, the amount of messages I get on a daily basis from women asking me how you come out. These are women in their 30s and 40s. I didn't come out till I was 31. I knew when I was 14, but it didn't quite happen. You know, and there's hundreds, if not thousands, actually thousands of people out there that aspire to do things but just don't know how. They don't have that level of guidance. I get people questioning me all the time on autism. How does your autism work for you? What does autism mean for your son? Like, how do I know if I'm autistic? And all of these kind of bumbling questions around subjects that actually we maybe feel a little bit taboo about. You know, how do you deal when your mental health dips? Or what do I fucking trust? What are these fucking hula hoops that are on TikTok that everybody's losing weight with? Do they actually work? No, they don't fucking work, by the way. I'm just going to say that. Please do not fall for it. They will work because it's a method of exercise, but they're not your be-all and end-all. Let's just lay that there. But essentially, Tanks Talks rips the band-aid off of a lot of things that perhaps people don't feel they can discuss. And I'm not your average influencer. I'm not your average fitness coach. I'm deeply against diets. I'm deeply against any kind of weight loss pill or shake, or actually just weight loss in general. I don't think should be the focus of somebody's goals. You know, I'm lucky enough that I've now worked with hundreds of women in the method of changing their mindset and changing their lifestyles and their approaches to things. So I realise that I'm rambling a little bit here and I may be going off piece, but essentially you can tell Tanks Talks is just, it's an opener. It's a situation where you can come and listen if you want to listen. You can come and get some value if you want to get it. And I'd like to think that actually the things and subjects that I cover give that. You can come and learn something if I perhaps have something that you can learn, but then I'm also here to learn too. So I've already had conversations with certain people where I'm like, do you know what, I'd love to get you on as a guest, because I've got situations that I want to learn about that I don't know enough about. And I think we live as a culture now really scared to say something incorrect, to say something wrong, because everything is so politically correct to the point that we don't know everything all the time, and it's a very quick, fast-paced, changing situation. And actually, I don't believe in cancel culture. If somebody has said something wrong, if something is offensive or upsetting, I would much rather educate that person than cancel them. So I think even from my time on social media, I've had to really solidly look at siphoning out the shit, at kind of wading my way through who's somebody that's actually a good influence, who's somebody that I would want my children to watch, who's somebody that's putting actual real information out there for us to consume, real life, you know, or what, you know, absolute piece of fucking trending bullshit is this now that's probably not going to work and is potentially going to create more harm than good. Like, Tanks Talks doesn't hold any of that. It may not always have 100% the right level of information, and it might have information that people disagree with, but that's where discussion comes in. And yeah. It's basically me sitting here airing my soul and getting things off my chest a little bit. Tanks Talks generally just used to come about when I was a bit heightened. I was a bit pissed off. I was a bit like, rah. And then over time it grew to subjects that actually were quite difficult. So it's here, it's back. It's in a much, much different format to anything it's ever been before. I'm excited for where it's going to go. Ultimately, my goal for this is to have 1 episode a week. I basically would like to think that this is now an opportunity for all of those people that saw that thirst trapping girl on TikTok, the one with the lip bite and the nose scrunch and all those other things, or the fitness girl on Instagram that you just saw kind of a nice pretty picture on a profile grid kind of thing. I'd like to think that this is the opportunity where you guys actually get to meet and see the real me, and kind of dive a bit deeper into what I actually am about, and who I actually am. And I'm fully aware that I am a bit of a Marmite. I know my delivery can be very, very blunt. I know sometimes I can come across as a little bit rude or a little bit obnoxious. I never mean to be. Again, I feel like that's potentially a little bit of misinterpretation with neurodiversity. I just don't have any like prefabbed persona. It's just, it comes out. But this is me, real, raw, pretty much unedited, bar potential silent moments, definitely unfiltered, and here to stay. So please, I realise I've spoken for quite a while at this point, but if you want to stick around for the ride, please make sure that you subscribe. Remember, if you're subscribing on YouTube, it's completely free of charge, as well as any kind of podcast subscription. I don't actually really know how podcasts work, I'm not gonna lie. It's the first time I've ever even tried to make one, so whether that even goes correctly, who knows. But yeah, please make sure you subscribe, support, follow along, and also head to tanks.talks on Instagram, because I hold a lot of stories actually asking for feedback from you guys. What do you want to see? What do you want to hear? What's something that you're potentially interested in? And I open up quite a few safe spaces in my stories as well. So there's always like an anonymous chance to just come and offload and let me know how you're feeling and get it off your chest the same way that I do it with this. So I'm going to leave you be. It was beautiful, and I will catch you next week with probably the first actual planned series of Tanks Talks. And there's a good chance that it will be centered around coming out, especially when you're coming out when you have children, because that is a real hot topic, something I've been asked to cover a lot. It's something I've done, and it's something that comes with a fucking truckload of stigma, which, you know what, we can all do without. So yeah, love you lots, and I'll catch you guys very, very soon.